So our next speaker is Robert Huxford. He's director of the Urban Design Group, which is a UK-based membership charity dedicated to improving the way we design and manage cities, towns and villages. And he's co-founder of the Public Realm Information and Advice Network. He's a member of the ICE's Municipal Expert Panel, and he's been involved in a number of publications on the design and management of towns and cities, covering all sorts of aspects of like transport, streets, public realm, highway law and urban watercourses. And I think today he's going to be talking to us about probably challenging a bit of the guidance that we have been living with for the last 20 years on how to design streets. Over to you.
Well, good morning, everyone. We just need to move this on one, I think. There we go. What should a new manual for streets include for healthy, livable streets? Well, I'm going to talk less about the healthy and livable streets and more about manual for streets and cities. Just as a reminder, I don't know how many people amongst us will be acquainted with this document, but let's reacquaint ourselves. It was published 11, 12 years ago. There it is. It encourages a systematic approach to the design, starting with policy review, objective setting, design, and when it boils down to it, a reflection, a quality audit to make sure that the design meets the objectives. It places people first. The pedestrians appear top of the hierarchy and other motor traffic at the bottom. It requires the creation of permeable street networks rather than loop and cul-de-sacs that you see on the left and distributor roads. It says specifically, don't create distributor roads. Ensure those main streets have frontage access and they're overlooked by other development. They ought to be places of people. Distributor roads are exclusively places for vehicles. They're not places at all. They're just corridors. Use small radius curves at street junctions. This is absolutely typical of any Regency, Victorian street. You've got a straight walk across the mouth of the junction. Don't have 6, 4, 15-metre radius curves. We're getting a bit of feedback here. Don't use just staggered junctions in your urban areas. Use all of the junctions that are available. T-junctions, Y-junctions, roundabouts, squareabouts, triangularabouts, you name it. Include them. Achieve safety, speed control by narrowing carriageway width and reducing forward visibility. Create quality streetscapes. Choose materials with maintenance in mind. Again, picking up the previous presentations, people behave in accordance with how they perceive the environment to be. If it looks good, they're going to behave better. If it looks under-maintained or neglected or vandalized, people are going to treat it with disdain and behave in a more selfish way. Right, that's the good news. The bad news is fewer than 20% of highway authorities are using a manual for streets. They are ignoring it. They are ignoring the National Planning Policy Framework, the Planning Practice Guidance. All of these put people first, not vehicles first. We have an embedded system where vehicles are placed above the needs of people. Incredibly, there are county councils out there that put the need to accommodate increases in the size of refuse collection vehicles above those of accommodating blind or partially sighted people or children or disabled or elderly people. It's an absolute scandal. They're ignoring the common law duty of care, which is to have regard to the safety of all road users, both careful and negligent. They're ignoring public health duties. It wastes land. It contributes to ill health. I won't go on about that, but above all, it's a breach of professional codes of conduct. And in doing so, if you breach your professional code of conduct, you stand the chance of invalidating your professional indemnity insurance. So we're not using manual for streets, and the imperative is to start using manual for streets and start putting people first. Anyway, but a rather abstract question, if we were going to try to improve manual for streets, what improvements could we make to it? Well, it lists a range of functions that streets perform, and there they are. And maybe we could add in SUDs, the transmission of clean, cool air. Air pollution is a growing issue. There's waste management, which is sore neglected. The recycling of water. Heat pipes. There's opportunities to deal with this, the intermittent obstruction of footways. There are underground waste collection systems. This one's in Edinburgh. Pneumatic systems. There's opportunities for water recycling. This is called water-sensitive urban design. District heating and cooling. These are big pipes. It's difficult to work them into a street. They need to be designed in. It's necessary to stop other utilities being shoved in. Design them in, don't shove them in. Clean, cool air. We can configure buildings and trees to encourage air circulation and to help keep people away from sources of pollution. Street trees, they need roots. They need an environment in which they can flourish and grow. Plant the trees, the evaporation of water from the tree leaves will help hold down summer temperatures if you've got a heat wave. Also, it's good for mental health. It helps to reduce stress, increase concentration. Tackling flooding. We're going to get more and more of this sort of thing. This is a storm that went over Bracknell in the year 2000, and we're looking at about 2 inches, maybe 3 inches of rain in the space of an hour, a couple of hours. When that sort of thing happens, practically everything's floods. It needs to be planned for. It needs to be designed in the way we look after streets. And in urban areas, it's streets, which is really the only option we have for dealing with this sort of problem. And here we go, the London, the SUDS manual, this is Syria SUDS manual, plenty of advice on what to do. There's the issue of safety. Utility strikes, over 20,000 a year, with innocent workers hitting electricity cables. And this is an instance of a £90,000 fine for the contractor. It's an ignorant, wasteful, negligent system. And if we took charge of what happens below our street surfaces and planned and designed them in a responsible way, this sort of thing could be avoided, and also costs to be avoided as well, because you wouldn't get roads being permanently dug up and the equipment of other utility companies being damaged in the process. There's the option of multiple utility ducts and tunnels, and in the City of London there are quite a lot of these, and maybe if we're going to build at high density, this is the sort of thing we need rather than the barbarism that we have at the moment. But streets are not they don't exist on their own. They're part of something bigger. And here we go. That's where we are at Excel. And I'm going to take you over here. I don't know why, but there it is, this yellow dot. There it is. It's just an average early Victorian, late Victorian, early Edwardian street. It's got a cycle lane. It's got a crossroads, which we like because it promotes permeability. It creates easy routes for people to walk and navigate. And it's also easier if you've got dementia to deal with this sort of environment. You only have one vista to cope with rather than a maze of streets. There's front gardens, which give people an opportunity to socialise with neighbours, people passing by. There are tight corner radii on the street corners. We don't like the blank gable walls. What have we got there? We don't like the waste bins left out in the street. We do like the trees, and of course it can all be improved by bringing the sun out and making it summer. What about shops? In this particular area there's plenty of shops within walking distance, and there's an example, a parade of shops where you can meet most of your needs, and it's in walking distance and very, very easy cycling distance. Schools, similarly, most of them a good choice within 10 minutes walk. Surgeries, a range of surgeries also within about 10 minutes walk. So this street is part of a system. It's not something that we should consider on its own, and it's not something that should be designed on its own. What we should also remember is that streets, once created, they're there pretty much forever. The first use of the word street in the English language, first recorded use of the word street, anybody volunteer a guess? It's 600, yes? No, you're wrong. You've got no chance of getting it right. It's 604 AD. Can we be a bit more precise than that? Yes, it's April 604 AD. Any more precise than that? The 24th of April 604 AD. It's in the Textus Refensis in Rochester Cathedral, and it's a Saxon land charter, and it's street, and it's Rochester High Street. It's in the same place now where it was 101,400, whatever. Don't do maths live, it's a big mistake. Talking streets as a system, Transport for New Homes published this report last year. It got extensive media coverage, and I'm going to take you to I can't remember where this town is. Oh dear, it's Trowbridge, Castlemead, Trowbridge. And here's the estate. It's a car preferenced estate. It's designed around vehicle use. There's a sucking great big distributor road going through the middle and a roundabout. Let's have a close-up. There's the roundabout. The residents had to campaign for the introduction of not a 20-mile-an-hour limit, a 30-mile-an-hour limit. If, as a highway authority, you want to land up in court for negligence if somebody gets killed or injured on one of these things, this is exactly what you should do. You should put a street at 30 or 40 miles an hour through a residential area. Yep, excellent, good way of getting you to court and not being able to defend yourself. So I think this is a really poor bit of urban design here. If we move across to the centre of Trowbridge and focus in, you can see how parking becomes a key focus of the town. There's car parks all over the place. So we shouldn't think of streets in isolation. They're about a system. You can have streets that are optimised for cars, car parking, car travel, and with that goes a whole load of things like car parks and hard surfacing. Taking this example, there's no reason why we should be particularly interested. This is somewhere in Leicestershire or Nottinghamshire. It's an absolutely typical new street, a new housing estate that's about a mile walk from the nearest school. And we'll walk around it, large areas of surfaced material, high rates of runoff, and they're dealt with by these detention basins. This one here, danger deep water. At the bottom of the site, this one, it looks attractive, it's been landscaped, but it's been fenced off. This is the only green space in the site. It's a permanent maintenance burden. The only thing you can do is look at it. And what we see here is it's not just about streets, it's where this place is located. It links with dependency on car use, car ownership, requirement for car ownership, designing the streets in response to that demand for car ownership, and then dealing with the consequences of mitigating the risk of flooding. But this approach has damaged this community, and they'll be paying for that for as long as this development exists. Other ways, a more integrated approach. We've already had the London SUDS design guide, and maybe this is more the sorts of thing that we should be thinking about in terms of a manual for street design guidance, something that integrates absolutely everything that has to happen in a street, but maybe put in some combined utility ducts rather than pipes and cables strewn around all over the place. So based on vehicles or based on people, 4-year-olds, 7-year-olds, you can read all of these. There are so many different types of people, and they get scant attention. And in the guidance documents, we need to know facts about them. How quickly do they move? How good are they judging the speed and distance of oncoming traffic? Young children don't perceive traffic that's moving at more than about 20 miles an hour. They see them as stationary, they don't register them at all. This puts them at great risk if they are exposed to an environment where vehicles are travelling at a higher speed. How quick and reliable are they at looking? If you're an elderly person, how quick are you at slewing your head around and being able to sense and judge what's coming? How do people navigate? We need to know these things, and it needs to be expressed in the guidance. So I'm going to suggest that a future street design guidance, it's about streets for 7-year-olds, neighbourhoods for 9-year-olds, and towns for 12-year-olds. And this is an aspiration. I think this is a legal requirement. And I would suggest that a highway authority who doesn't design their streets, doesn't design and manage their streets, for this group of people may be in serious trouble. So a manual for towns and cities, is that what we need? Where streets fit in within a broader framework. I haven't got the time to go through this, but we've got all of those different issues and different scenarios, from rural through to a compact city where space is at an absolute premium. We've really got to get maximum value out of every bit. We could have a manual for towns and cities that link acts, regulations, and policies, conceptual guidance, detailed design guidance that's actually being used to create schemes, and then management and maintenance. This could all be informed by evidence and research, and it could be informed by practical experience. But this is not the system that we've got at the moment. Nothing like it. It's all shattered, disaggregated, and I would suggest fairly dysfunctional. So back to the Rue Future. This is 1911. Mr. Eugene Hennard, who is proposing an integrated street where the understreet is designed just in the same way as the buildings are designed, and it's all integrated and it's part of a bigger whole. I would suggest this is the sort of thing that we should be aiming for, and it should be based around people's needs, human need. But my expectation of anything like this happening, I think it's fairly negligible. But maybe if we all pull together, maybe it might just happen. Thank you very much.